all our stabilizers come right off of interceptors. If the person's is dealing with me directly. Obviously, if Fletch is dealing with another ISR officer, I can stabilize without intercepting. My interception is a stabilizer itself. Why? Because I'm not at risk. So if he's talking to somebody and I was going to stabilize with a harness, I just go in and get the harness. It served as an interceptor simply because he wasn't addressing me. If he's facing me and he swings, well, I'm going to have to intercept first and then come around and look for that same harness. You see? So each of the tools and the methods can be used at different places, and that's the beauty of it. It works no matter what. So going back to stabilizers, the underhook and pike, I'll demonstrate the technique first, and then I'll put it into play. The underhook is, I'm going to go underneath his arms, which is gaining ground. His territory is, this is what's going to give me control. That's why we use a forklift. If he has a forklift and I go to tackle him, I can't get control. So even if this guy's asleep and he's got the forklift structure and I go to tackle, he's protected. He's got the inside of my body, and if he knows what he's doing, he can continue to work. So as an ISR agent, you're basically working with your elbows in, so if Fletch goes to tackle and I hit my elbows in, I'm looking to keep the control and have an underhook. No matter what, I have some sense of control where I can manipulate the body. I'm going to go ahead and use that against him though. So if I use an underhook and pike, that means I've gained control. I'm underneath, I'm going to grab the shoulder. Now, details of this. I want to grab the shoulder. Initially, all your recruits and the beginners and all your candidates are going to be basically grabbing high or grabbing up beyond the shoulder shoulder joint. What I want to do is I want to grab the shoulder like it's a ball. I want to grab it tight and I want to bring the shoulder to me as I rip it back this way. So once I'm under here, I'm going to bring it back, bring the shoulder to me. The reason I do this is I want him close enough where he can't get away and I have a sense of control. And I also want to make sure that I can, the next step is how I want to control his attacking, his weapons. So what I'm going to do next is the pike. And the pike, you can turn it up or turn it down depending on what this is. I can strike with it or I can place it. So once I have an underhook and pike, this can come hard or it can be gentle, but I'm going to lock it out. Now the pike is locked. I'm locked in this way. Why? I don't want to use muscle. If he's stronger than me, he'll always collapse. So if I'm in here, I'm using my tricep to keep him back. You know, how often have I gone to the gym? I don't want that to be a factor. If I lock it out, it's bone that's holding it together. It's structure. Because this is locked out, it's hard for him to come inside. If any of you have lifted weights, lifting the weight's a difficult part. Once it's locked out, you can hold it a bit longer. Same with pull-ups. Getting up is hard. Once the arm is there, you can hang for a while. So pike is locked out. Now, shoulders to me, my elbow is ripping down and in tight. Two things have happened because of this. I have gained some sense of stability. He is unstable, especially if I'm moving. Now, because I have this, and this is a stabilizer, I don't need my eyes. Again, I'm letting my body's intelligence control this. I could be looking over there, telling somebody to do something, saying, back away, back away. If Fletch tries to run from me, go ahead, Fletch. My underhook tells me that. It feels that he's trying to get away from me. Same token, if I'm looking over there and he tries to charge at me, my pike is telling me that he's driving in. So these two things allow me to monitor him without having to look at him physically. Now, the other thing I want to establish is, and when you're coaching this, is traction. Traction means that I'm constantly pulling him closer, and at the same time, I'm driving him away. I'm driving him away and pulling him in. That's what keeps him glued to me. Okay, this is what I want. Now, use this is, again, my visibility has not been affected. I can still see all around the club, the office, the hallway, the airport, wherever I'm working. I can keep visibility. The second thing is I can maneuver. Okay? Now, questions arise, and please be patient. We're showing you the basics. Is what if he stands up? What if he tries to tackle you? We're going to address that in a second. But I want you to see where the attachment is, how it works. How it works off of our interceptors is pretty simple. If he swings and I go in my helmet, if you notice, I'm at center. If I'm on this side of the body, just because it happened that way, I'm not planning it, I use my natural response, I'm in here, because this will be the underhook. It's very easy. If he happened to have swung with the other hand, and I happen to have crashed and I'm on this side, well, this becomes the underhook. So if Fletch were to stand like this, and I'm at center, well, I pick which underhook I'm going to use. I can go this way, or I can go this way. But on impact, usually it will be a side that's favored depending on what hand they swing with. So again, if he stands like this, and I happen to be here, this would be the underhook. If I happen to be here, this would be the underhook. Doesn't matter. It's there. What you're sticking with is your strategy. Intercept, stabilize. So I've intercepted. I've crashed. Boom. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to underhook and pike. When I do this, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spin. I want to not come off balance. Impact, underhook, pike, and that's what I want to do. That initial spin just disorients him enough so you have a little bit more advantage. Again, from this angle, if he swings at me, doesn't matter what side, here and here. Now, how hard I want to go with that pike, that clubbing action, what are you dealing with? That's your call as an individual that you're going to have to adhere to your own policies and what your rules of engagement are.
Talking about the underhook and pike, to help me, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Freddie. Underhook and pike. Entering in, we can go into the underhook and pike a couple of different ways. We can go into it in a sort of a passive mode, where basically we're going up, we're talking to an individual, and we just kind of slide our arm up in, and we transition into the movement. A couple of different things that we're going to talk about later on, some of the stuff that we've already covered, is the mechanics of the underhook and pike is we want to basically, the arm that's reaching up underneath, we want to grab a hold of the shoulder, the ball of the shoulder right here. Sometimes I refer to it as the coconut, depends on, maybe you have some bigger guys that you have to instruct this to. The other part of the underhook and pike is the pike itself. We call it a pike because, especially in training, we want this thing locked out like a pike, like a javelin. It needs to be totally locked out. The more experience that you have with it, you might be able to get away with a little bit of a bend, but what we try to do when we're instructing this, we get people to exaggerate locking this thing out, because we need to make sure that they have a structure that will not collapse once the person starts putting pressure on it. Another thing to remember, one of the things, when we do have the underhook and pike, I like to overlap my elbow across his back. I don't like to have it floating right back out here, because if I do have it here, one of the most common things if somebody's going to try to pick apart this thing technique-wise is the old shoulder wrench that everybody's seen in the movies. If I have the elbow overlapping the back, mechanically and structurally, he is not going to be able to bring this around and be able to crank my shoulder. If you're doing this whole thing right and you've stepped into it and you've got some momentum with it, it's going to be difficult for him to do anyway. If that does happen, it's not that hard to just go ahead, if he starts to crank the shoulder, it's not that hard for you just to counter it and unravel your shoulder. But you shouldn't have get to that point anyway. So, getting back to the entry, either a passive way where I'll just basically just come up and kind of slid my arm in and basically stepped up into the underhook and pike. Whenever I don't have this any kind of momentum going in, it's all going to be based on me being able to create some kind of deception and be able to slide it without him before he actually realizes what's going on. Better than that, when it goes in fast and hard, and it goes in with a step and with movement. As it comes in, a lot of times we see this with maybe somebody who's challenging you to a fight, and he has his hands up like this, like, what are you going to do? You're going to call the cops? You're going to take me to jail? Whatever. His hands come up like this. He's giving you an obvious opportunity because he's opening up his sternum. He's opening up his torso and the target that we're looking for. As soon as I see that, maybe I get one of my coworkers to distract him a little bit. He's looking over here. He's got his hands up. As soon as he does that, I step in, and you notice that as soon as I step, he ends up getting a little bit of momentum, a little bit of a whip. That helps with the final thing that I want to talk about, which is breaking the vertical plane. I want him bent forward over at the waist, because here I can keep my head up, I can pay attention to what's going on around me, I have some peripheral awareness, and I'm also not stuck into the zone where he's standing straight upright and we both have it's a little bit more equal footing. So I want him bent forward over at the waist. And this is going to open up different things that we do when we start talking about counters, where he tries to pull a headlock or tries to grab my legs or whatever. Same thing. We're the same thing. Some people look at it as in, okay, well, the taller guy is not going to have the same attributes. He's not going to be able to work things the same way versus the shorter guy. Freddie's a little bit shorter than I am, so what we're going to do is, you'll see that's a little bit different. He's going to be basically closer to my hips. It's going to be easier for him to get underneath me. But if Freddie goes in and slides me into an underhook and pike, you notice that basically, if I do stand up, maybe it might be easier for him to duck up under my arm or what have you when we start talking about different counters.
Yes, again. Yes. As you can see with the underhook and pike, it has different functions. And again, keeping with the ISR matrix, that's the whole point. Different things will be used at different points and it flows naturally. With the underhook and pike, as you've seen, the average guy who's hyped up will have his arms flared up. It's just monkey behavior. They're trying to pound on their chest. Their arms are flared. They're trying to be bigger than they actually are. They're trying to elevate. Their eyes are flared. Usually their jaw's exposed. They're exposing their neck. They're almost daring you. They're like this. They've given you everything that an athlete or a fighter wouldn't give you. A fighter knows to keep his chin down, to keep his shoulders up, to keep his elbows in. This guy's got his elbows open, his chin up, his neck exposed. That's how confident he wants you to think he is. Well, by doing this, there's the underhook and pike from the beginning. And if it's something that's worked, is that an interceptor or a stabilizer? See, at that point, it's serving both because you've already decided this guy's not a threat. He's not swinging at you in that degree. If he's all balled up and he's all angry and he's antsy and he's doing his walking, you better be ready for a dive or a helmet. But this guy's doing this. He could sucker punch you. You still have the helmet, you still have the dive, but you see it. And the more you train with this, you're going to use the stabilizer as an interceptor as well. I'm just going to dive in, boom, get that underhook and pike, and lock it down. The other primary stabilizer I like to introduce is the wrist weave. Again, much like the underhook and pike, it gives you many options along the use of force continuum that your particular agency, department, or field gives you as an agent of that agency, obviously. The wrist weave is something that, regardless of where he's at, amp-wise, if I see it, I can get it. We can use it to transport. It's pretty much what we use to transport. We haven't gotten into transports yet, but that's part of fields such as people that are orderlies, obviously police officers, but some security guards must take the guy outside to the officer who's working his detail. This is a way to transport as well, which I'm sure Fletch and Tim will get into, but what I want to do is use it as a stabilizer. How do I gain control, at least temporarily, before I resolve this conflict, okay? The wrist weave I'll show you briefly is, I want to attach to the subject's wrist. I'm going palm underneath. The thumb isn't as important as the four fingers underneath, pushing the hand towards the chest and sternum area. The other hand's going under this tricep, fist closed. It's going to wrap under and lock. Now, by doing this, I'm not locking everything in with my hands yet, just to show the technique. Once I'm in this position, I'm going to bring my elbows together. I'm going to bring it this way, and I'm going to lock in tight, pushing his hand towards his chest, and my elbows are going to pinch tight. If my elbows are open, this isn't as strong. Just like the helmet, if I'm up here, there's too many variables. Everything's going to be locked in tight. So same mechanics as and when you teach this, same way as the helmet. My elbows in the entire system are always tight towards my rib cage. Remember we talked about that from the forklift. So there's a continuum going through. I'm here and I'm locking it. Okay? From this position, I'm going to put my head in a safe place. What we'll use throughout the system, as you see as we evolve and tie this together, you'll see that in action, you're going to have to protect your face once you're trying to stabilize. I'm either going to put it in the pocket, which is collarbone towards the neck. I'm not down here where they can push my head down. I'm going to have it inside here, or obviously, I'm going to look towards putting my head in the back. That's obviously the safest place, but you won't always have that option. How we get this? Different ways. You mentioned arm drag. So if I'm using an arm drag on a subject, once I arm drag and I'm here, I've already turned the corner. Once I've turned the corner, I'll wrap it up. Here, here, and lock. Now, as I'm getting this, if you notice, once I'm in this typical 2-on-1 position, which again, Fletch and Tim will get into the transport aspects that has been used historically and where we've taken it with the ISR. Once I'm in this typical position, which we've all seen people being escorted and moved around, you can do this. Look how quick it goes into the wrist weave. So you can do whatever is typical and being used traditionally and being taught as a uniform method, but from right here, it can go into the wrist weave. Now, this can be done very fast, but what I'm actually doing is, as this hand's going in, my fist is closing, this elbow's coming up for a moment. That's the opening. I am inserting this inside and then cinching it like everything else in the ISR, elbows together. This is the locking mechanism. This gets driven to the chest. There will be pain compliance on any law-abiding citizen, and there will be pain compliance on somebody who's not too wired or intent on hurting you. When it comes to pain compliance with the ISR, that's the way we look at it. It works on people that are law-abiding citizens or people that don't really want to put it on you. If they want to put it on you, their ability to take pain increases exponentially. So when I'm in here, I'm lifting up my elbow and locking it, it can get very uncomfortable. And if you drill this all day like these guys have, you'll end up with all sorts of bruises. Okay? So it can be turned on so it does hurt. Again, towards people that aren't amped up trying to take your head off. Here, lift, lock, cinch. My head to the pocket, my legs back, or behind his back to safety. Off an arm drag from here, it'll flow pretty easily. I'm in here, I'm locked into the side, and there it comes. Boom, boom, boom. Head in the pocket or behind.
Okay, the stabilizer we're going to talk about next is going to be the wrist weave, but I'm going to show it from a position of advantage that everybody's already pretty much familiar with, and it's basically a two-arm escort. Important thing about understanding how the two-arm escort works is the position of advantage is that you are behind the person's shoulder and you're also behind their elbow, so that you can kind of control pretty much this entire half of their body. As long as you stay behind the elbow, behind the shoulder, you've got a lot of control over here. There's a lot of different things you can do. The way traditional martial arts is always basically taught this is control at the wrist and then basically some type of C-clamp here right at the elbow and locking it out. It doesn't take a whole lot of muscle to be able to defeat this, because he can basically clutch his arm into his side, put all his body into it, and he can get his arm away from him. What we try to do is when we show the 2-on-1 from this position, we don't show it with the C-clamp. We basically show it with basically an underhook on the bicep area. Right here I've got 2 points of contact, and not a whole lot of my body weight is up on top of this arm trying to keep it straight. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm basically going to press him to my torso, and now instead of 2 points of contact, I've got 4 points of contact. I've got 1, I've got 2, I've got 3, and I've got the back of my shoulder on the back of, front of my shoulder on the back of his shoulder for 4. So I can basically get him broken over forward, breaking the vertical plane, and I can basically put a lot more of my weight and get on top of him and keep his arm straight. Now, even this is not a guarantee that I'm going to be able to escort the person or keep his arm straight. So if the person is just that much stronger and he really wants his arm back because he doesn't like the feeling of his elbow being hyperextended, he's going to bend his arm. A lot of times what he does, he just brings it right into his own belly. Now I'm going to assist him. If I feel that I'm no longer able to keep his arm straight, I'm just going to feed it to him. As he really tries real hard to get it in towards his belly, I'm just going to give it to him just like this. Now you'll notice that basically my fingers are on top and my thumb, if at all, is underneath. So right about now is when I'm only going to do is I'm going to release and I'm going to palm and I'm going to put my fingers on the bottom. The thumb is not so important. The important thing is that I have the ability to lift with my fingers. The most important part of the equation right now is the hand on the bicep, because even if I lose this, I have a hold of this, because I can always chase this arm down wherever it is, whether it's straight or if it's already in here at his belly, I can always catch up with this. If I lose this, it's going to be a lot harder to get back. Okay, so back again from the 2-on-1. I have my fingers down. I can also work it this way with the fingers underneath and with the thumb on top. If I just did it this way, I wouldn't need to rotate. I wouldn't need to palm. Okay, the idea is once I get into the wrist weave, I want the fingers on the bottom. But once I've gotten to this point, I want to make sure that I have my fingers on the bottom. This hand that's on the bicep is going to make a fist. Very important to make a fist, and it goes underneath the elbow. If I can't get underneath the elbow this way, I lift my elbow and it goes underneath this way. The importance of making a fist. If he looks down and he sees my fingers flopping around out here, it doesn't take a rocket scientist for him to reach over and start trying to bend my fingers back. So I just take that out of the equation, make a fist, make sure my thumb and pinky are straight up and down, and I also want his thumb and his pinky straight up and down, because that puts a little bit more emphasis on my bone against the soft spot right in here on top of his forearm, and I can get a little bit of pain compliance if he's susceptible to pain. There's no guarantee that the guy is gonna comply at this point, but this is just a mechanical compliance hold. There's no guarantee I'm going to be able to hold on to it this way. He may be strong enough to straighten his arm now. If he straightens his arm, all I do is I go right back to the 2-on-1.
We're going to cover some of the subtle nuances of the wrist weave. First of all, we want to take advantage of a person's natural reactions. One of the biggest problems you have as a civilian, or either as a police officer or someone that's involved with removing someone from an area, is you don't want to make the situation worse than it is already by jacking the person up. So the easiest way to set yourself up for a good wrist weave is simply a handshake. And I know a lot of officers are going to say, I never shake hands with anybody. You may want to rethink that. All right, you're already within the area of the person. If they have any diseases, they're most likely airborne and you're already being contaminated. Otherwise, if you don't want to shake hands with someone because you feel it puts you at a disadvantage, then look at this concept with this wrist weave as something that allows you to go offensive. You're no longer the prey, you are the predator. The easiest thing to do is to set it up. Most people will not resist it. Anytime you give them a hand, and I go straight to the 2-on-1, as we've described it earlier. I'm always moving to the back. You may even ask yourself, what happens if the person doesn't give me their hand? If I extend my hand to shake a person's hand, and you get what I call the stink eye, and he doesn't want to give the hand, then that person's already told you a lot about himself and the way the situation's going to go. No problem. I extend my hand, he doesn't give it, I still move to here. And I'm already where I need to be. All right? I'm getting in my flanking position we talked about before in our strategy, and now I'm here. Inner limb response. Right? Notice, if I'm escorting this person out, I have this bicep cup, but what I'm not doing is I'm not putting a death grip on it, putting me. Right? I'm not overly gripping this wrist to the point where this person knows that he's being manhandled. Right? And that might be the point that he has the biggest problem with. And as I escort, I'm nice and soft. By doing that, I'm not torquing this guy up and causing any problems that I didn't have before. And also, by having a light grasp on him, firm but light, I can feel as he starts to tense. And that gives me the impetus to do what I need to do. All right? I can set him up for it. I can pull, causing an interlimb response as he pulls to regain himself. I'm here, nice and tight. All right. From the escort position, I can sit up, ask him to leave. If he doesn't want to leave, he does the pull away, I step in, I'm here. If he's powerful enough to lock his arm out of it, I don't necessarily have to go back to here. I can go back to here, but if I've decided my particular strategy is, if he resists me, I'm going to go ahead and try to get him on the ground. All right, from that position, set it up. I'm here. He goes to lock his arm out. Arm drag like we talked about before. And I'm in another stabilizing position where I can either take him down or walk him out like this.
If you notice with the wrist weave, it automatically implies that you've intercepted because I'm stabilizing now, so I got in somehow. But we continue to show, depending on the level of resistance, if Fetty here is the subject and his hands, and he's very calm, but I still, feel for my job, it's always, we're always going to try to outflank. So even if this is a casual conversation, this person is just telling me a story. I don't know where he's at. I don't know who did it. So I always want to we all have common sense. I'm going to try to outflank a little bit. But by the handshake method that Tim mentioned, I've already gained something to move towards this way and turn the corner. But even if it's as subtle as, talking to the person and kind of moving here and then pinning, by pinning and moving to the side, this is a stabilizer, but what have I done? I've intercepted. So the handshake is an interception. The strategy stays the same, the concept stays the same. I've intercepted, I'm in. Now, if all of a sudden he swings with the other hand, we're going back to the same thing. But since the level of resistance is right now unknown or very minor, why take it there? So once I'm outside, I'm good to go, locking in that stabilizer and I'm calm. Why is it a stabilizer? Just like the underhook and pike, he's pulling and tugging. Stay with him for a moment, deciding what I'm going to do. It's all quick. With this, the more he pulls and tugs, I'm going to keep it. And straightening this arm out is not that easy. We've mentioned it because it will happen against certain individuals. But if I'm pulling this up and I'm jacking in this way and I have my hip behind his elbow, it's very hard to maneuver. So once I'm locked in here, my hip is now driving this elbow across this way, not necessarily down. So I'm driving my hip in. It's very hard as he starts straightening his arm out. Plus, as he's straightening his arm out, no matter how strong he is, I will see it coming. In other words, if I'm here locked and he's straightening out, it's going to be slow, even if I'm a pretty weak individual, just because of the mechanism behind this. The other thing that will happen is, we know that if we grab this guy from the side and he wants to pull it away, natural reaction is, don't touch me. It's just gut reaction. If I do this and he pulls away from me, where's he taking it? Exactly where I want it to go. So if I'm in here doing a traditional transport and he pulls away, where's it? Exactly where I want to go. And we have to know that when we do our jobs. So if I'm in here, I expect him to pull. As he pulls, that's no problem. That's where I wanted it to go. It's an initial gut reaction that I want. It's the same thing if I go to shake his hand and he yanks that elbow, where's it going to go? Pull away your hand. Look at that. What's he giving me? So as you train this system and you tie it together, you'll have this. Our techniques are very simple and very few. There's 3 across the board on every range, within every aspect of it, but the variables are endless. So we like to say that it's not very wide as far as the technical base of it, but it's very functional. But what it is very deep. You can take it as far as you can to any aspect of subject control. So if I go to shake his hand and he kicks that elbow up, boom, I'm already moving in anyway. I'm not going to do this. I'm already always moving in. So if I shake my hand, I'm moving in. If he pulls the hand away, I'm still coming around for that 2-on-1. My entry was to outflank him to begin with. That was my mindset. If I shake his hand and he pulls away, go boom, I got another broken pike. Nothing's changed. I'm still intercepting and I'm still trying to stabilize.
Okay, 3 common errors that we see in training, and there's an overlap when it goes into actually operational, wherever you happen to be working, whether police or subject control, private security, what have you. And they have to do with basically head position, hand position, and weight balance, exactly where your weight is. First thing I'm going to talk about is head position. We've already talked about that a little bit to some degree. Once I've gotten this locked in right here, it's kind of, we can't emphasize enough the importance of basically having your head in a safe place. It's a self-correcting error. You're probably not going to catch a knockout shot here, but the first time that you get your bell rung from the opposite hand coming around, you're going to find a way to go ahead and make sure it's safe, basically getting behind, because there's no way that he's going to be able, unless he's got freakishly long arms, he's going to be able to kick you with an elbow around the back. So that's hand placement, or that's head placement. Hand placement, again, when we're teaching this, sometimes a common error is not controlling the forearm here, but letting this slide up on the actual hand itself, the back of the hand. And what you find is the flexibility of the wrist kind of deforms the lock and it doesn't lock it in. It puts a little bit of, maybe a little bit of stress right here, but it takes away any and all pain that's going to be right here, and it's basically just going to loosen up the control hold. So make sure this is locked all the way down. No matter how, if the guy's got shorter forearms, you're going to have to improvise, but don't get your grip over here on the back of his hand. Bring it down here and make sure it's on the forearm, because the forearm doesn't have a joint in it. Okay, so let's make sure we have that. And then finally, exactly where your weight is. You need to get your weight up on top of it. Make sure that you can get everything in and keep it in tight. You don't want any kind of space floating around in here, and you don't want to be equal with them. You want to try to get on top of the control hold.
The last stabilizer I'm going to cover is the harness. The harness is something that is used throughout stabilization and in resolution as well. Again, the matrix is it's very hard to tell where an intercept, a stabilizer, or resolve begins or starts, and that's the way that we specifically designed it for. The reason being is there's no way to exactly say when and if a fight is doing what specific thing. It's organic, it mutates, it evolves, it does what it does. So your intercept, stabilizer, resolve, the only reason we stage them in certain ways is for strategy. That way in the middle of a fight, you tend to know where you're at and what your tools are are used for. But the harness is something that, and I'll demonstrate this way so you can see it, is I'm going over one collarbone and I'm coming across the front. The other one's going to be partly going under the arm, so it's an underhook. From in here, you're going to go palm to palm. Your thumbs are not used this way. Okay, it's just the details being that if I use my thumb and grip this way, you're using too much of your forearms. You don't want to fatigue muscle. You want to use structure. So like the pike uses bone structure as opposed to muscle ability. What you're going to do with the harness is you're going to basically lock something in that the more he struggles, the tighter it gets, and it's not using much muscle on your part. So when I come over, it's not thumbs out. It's thumbs at the side of the hands. Then they come over the top and lock. We call it cinching when the elbows come down. Just like the platforms we've used for the wrist weave and our working platform, the elbows are always cinched down. So once I have the harness, I'm cinching down on the elbows to secure. My face, obviously, you've seen me use the helmet. I'm kind of doing the Gilligan hat sometimes, so I'm talking to you guys in the camera there. But the bottom line is my head will be in the pocket, meaning it's going to be back here and safe from getting hit with the eye, getting my eyes poked or gouged or raked and all the different things that people talk about dirty fighting. The other thing is, I want to address right now while I briefly can, is the idea of growing shots, throat tears, eye gouging, doing stuff to the face with fingernails, pulling hair, all those things. My own experiences and those I've talked to in the field, with my own jobs and different things that I've done, is if it's on, it's on. Those things do impact on a fight, but they do not necessarily finish the fight. It is a fight, after all, if it's going to go that route. What I try to do with the ISR is minimize all that. Can you get hit in the groin at certain points? You'll know if you did get hit. It'll probably be the next day. You will accomplish what you set out to do if you follow through with your strategy, your point of view, and you've trained it. Bottom line, if you're not trained, it's not going to function. Okay, everything must be trained. So when I do this, I want to reiterate: yes, my face is going to be out of the way, my hips are going to be behind him, so that the probabilities of a growing shot or a rip or tear and all those other words that you use and verbiage is there. But I can't think about all those little details. My job is to subject control. I must go in. So if I've trained the system correctly, you'll see that even when we outflank, when we have distance, it's very hard to get hit in the groin. We're doing things that are in the system already that we've troubleshot, and that's why we do stand in certain places, because we were hit in the groin, we were gouged in the face. So those things are in place. The harness, my face is covered up, I'm in here. And there's different things you can do with the harness. I can just hold them. I can hold them for a moment while my partner comes in. Flex, if you could please come in. We'll cover these later in drills. But if I'm holding a subject, he can immediately slap on a wrist weave. So now we've got another one. Now that he knows, I know he's got the wrist weave, I can move in here and lock in the wrist weave. I can go underhook and pike as he's got a wrist weave. This is where we go into team things, which we're going to cover later. But the harness is a great setup for it. Thank you, Flex. So if he's talking to one of my other agents in here, and this is a bar or something else, so this could be somebody who's really upset, and one of the orderlies or one of the other security guards is dealing with him, well, I'm just going to walk behind and lock in the harness. As I lock in the harness, when it comes to stabilizing an individual that's on his feet, as I hit the harness, I'm going to hit him with my hip under his hip, and I'm going to lift him up, and I'm going to pull this back. We call it shaking the blanket. It's like shaking a blanket. I'm going to come in and rip like a question mark, up and down. I'm in here, up and down, just to set him to this position. He's resting on my leg now. Okay? If it's a huge individual, we all know this. I'm going to hit the leg, boom, duck, and then lock it in this way. Face covered and locking the harness. It could be set up different ways. It could be set up where I started with one stabilizer, underhook and pike. It was too loose, maybe didn't have a shirt on. I didn't feel secure enough this way. As I duck this way, it's already in place from the underhook and pike. I already have the underhook. It's going to come around and lock. Again, I don't want to reiterate that too much now because we're going to do that with the drills, but I want to show you basically what it covers. Palm to palm, lock it in, cinch. The reason we're doing this, if I use my fingers when I lock on somebody, and Freddie expands his arms, this is all muscles, my finger joints. How strong is my grip? If I use my thumbs, I'm squeezing in on my hands. How strong is my grip? If I do this, he can manipulate my wrist with his other hand, which I don't want him to do. So when I do this though, the more he tries to open his arms, the more this cinches. And it's just tighter and it's not costing me anything. Because when you hold this grip, as soon as he starts to expand it, it's just like a corkscrew. It's just going to tighten it. And it's not causing much effect or fatigue on your arms. If you have an agent or an officer that's perhaps small or light or not that heavy, they can lock in a harness. And if the guy's trying to get away, they can just jump and just sag in there and let the guy carry him. It's going to slow him down until the other, your other assistants get in there and can lock in other stabilizers like the wrist weave or the underhook and pike.
Stabilizing position, the harness. Harness is probably one of the most important, just because from the harness we can slide off and we can start transitioning into the other transporting positions, and it's probably the most versatile just because we bring in a lot of different aspects of the ISR solely into the harness. The mechanics of the harness, basically what I like to do, you can either go body lock, double unders, or across the top. The reason we call it a harness is because we look at it as if it was a safety belt in your car. One across the shoulder, one underneath, and we look at a grip right here trying to use no thumbs. If you have somebody that's a lot smaller, sometimes we end up start grabbing our own wrist or whatever. When we start doing that, it opens up counters to where he can bend your wrist or something like that. Or if you end up on the ground, sometimes you can get your wrist jammed. So probably the best thing that you can do is basically go to what we call a gable grip, no thumb, and we keep everything in tight. Of course, we hide our head. It's a self-correcting error that if your head is out here and he's reaching back and he's trying to grab stuff, that maybe you might get thumbed in the eye. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to fix that by putting your head in a relatively safe position. Once we throw on the harness, we don't want to camp out here. Okay, so the whole thing is right here, we want to try to get him to a position to where either I can hold on to him, I can either get him pushed up against a vertical solid object like a wall, and then I can get somebody else on another arm, because I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot just with the harness. Eventually, I'm going to have to get control of a limb and try to get his hands behind his back or escort him, evict him from the premises or whatever. The first takedown basically that we do from the harness is basically here, and all I do is I basically slide my hip in, I bump his hip forward. From the side, it's probably a little bit easier to see. Once the harness comes in, I drive my hip all the way forward. And all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a little bit of a void right here between my hip and the back of his tailbone. Because once I do that, the idea is I'm going to be able to sit him down. I'm going to basically drop him like an elevator, as opposed to, he doesn't have to catch air. When we first teach this to a lot of people, sometimes there's a whole lot of energy going into it because people don't have confidence that it's going to work. So when they first actually do it full speed, the guy's feet fly up like 2 or 3 feet in the air, and he hits the ground pretty hard. You'll find that with a lot of practice, that you can dial this up or dial this down, and you can set him down as easy or as hard as you want. Basically, I can slide in here and I say, hey, little settle down, buddy. We're going to sit down right now. I just bump my hips in, and I just sit him down.
Using the matrix, you're going to discover certain things work for you as an individual that do not work for other individuals. Height, how much you want to engage, how much you want to tie up. Do you prefer to disengage? Do you want to go underneath the arms, try to take it back all the time, so you're trying to control the limbs? That's all pretty much style preference, depending on your attributes and also on your job and what you bring to the job. But one thing I want to say about the harness as far as legalities and safety, if I can borrow Federico, please, sir, is I'm not doing anything to affect his neck at this point. So I'm subject control. I'm not grabbing some kind of choke. I'm not grabbing his face some way. I'm not doing anything violent. This is not affecting his breathing in any way whatsoever from a standing place. Everything I do, from the stuns, the brachial stuns, boom, everything that's a piking motion that people are familiar with, nothing here that I've done so far is going to conflict with anything that your department, agency, or field is saying is taken into too much risk for the subject you're dealing with. This is all very safe. I'm not attacking the neck in any way whatsoever. We're mentioning the idea of the feet coming up. I have to have an awareness of that for training. that if I'm a 240-pound officer and this officer weighs 140, that if I do shake the blanket, the end of the blanket's not going to go up in the air and hit the fan up at the top of the ceiling. You know what I mean? I have to have my, I have to know my limits and my capabilities, and that only comes through training. And again, I always have to reiterate with the ISR, where we came from with it and where we continue to go with it is all based on a live training. And you're either trained or you're not is a true statement. And this is something that you have to repeat over and over again in a live atmosphere and troubleshoot to see what works for you. But again, I'm reiterating, I'm not attacking his neck. I'm in a safe position. Given life and death, you know, is the neck available there? I love jiu-jitsu as a martial art, and I do jiu-jitsu, and I use this position to attack the neck. Will your job entail that? Are you working as a diplomat or protecting a diplomat in a foreign country? Is this a life or death situation? The ISR is set to go through the entire use of force continuum, but everything it does from square one is safety involved for the subject that you're working with. I know that right now it's up to him how far I want to escalate. Do I want to take his feet off the ground and plant him down hard because the person I'm protecting on this particular thing, his life's in danger? Do I need to set him up where his feet go up in the air and he impacts hard and we can run? That might be the case. But as far as your training initially, you must train from a position where you are in control and you haven't lost that control. For example, if Federico's taking a harness on flex that's much taller, his options might change a little bit.
Okay, basically from here, what Freddie's going to try to do is basically trying to sit me down. He may have to launch me in and basically, right now, we're talking about the height differences right now. He can drive it in and he can pick my feet up off the ground and he can sit me down hard, or he can basically just drive my hips forward and just take a step back and just basically take a knee. So just drive my hips forward. He just drops me down into a seated position. He still has his head up. He can look around. He can pay attention to what's going on around him. If there is even more of a height difference than we have with myself and Freddie, if it turns into, go ahead and get a harness. Once he goes in under over, if I'm that much taller, going to sag down a little bit. He's pretend like he's a little bit even shorter. He's not going to want to necessarily be at this position because his hips are already lower than mine. He can't overcome that height difference, and he doesn't want to get to a position to where he's up off his feet and I'm carrying him around like a backpack or a papoose. So basically, at this point, he might want to rethink sticking with the harness. He might go to what we call a body lock, which would be double under, and the same move. The same grip that he has right here is going to do the same thing. He's going to drive his hips in. He's going to sit me down, but he's just not going to have the same amount of control that he has over my torso. So he just going to sit me down again. Here, and same way. Driving the hips forward, creating a space, and then sitting me down in the hole.
We briefly mentioned shaking the blanket as a concept that is you're literally shaking the blanket, but the reason that we got that terminology to begin with is because of dealing with officers that have female officers that are 130 pounds, 135 pounds. How do they shake up and get some sense of stability over somebody much bigger than them if they're walking behind them or being set up for it, or if they've just ducked under? If I'm a lot shorter than the person I'm working with and I went to a helmet, sometimes naturally, since I'm much shorter, when they swing and I use a helmet, I just end up behind them. But what if I can't reach for that harness? What if I don't want a body lock? Well, the shaking the blanket, I'll just show it from this side, I'm just gripping anywhere. Jacket, shirt, t-shirt, I'm just gripping in here. And all I'm doing is lifting, and then I'm going to run backwards. And as I run backwards, I could bump and run. I could bump, which is the best way to do it, or I can just run. The way the body's set up is, as soon as I start running, there's no way you can keep up with it. It'll sit them down. So we'll start here so the camera can get it. So if I'm just behind a person, all I'm going to do is grab, bump, like shake the blanket, and I'm just going to run back until they drop. And I'm carrying their weight so their head doesn't hit the ground. That's training. Now again, are you working deployed in another country? Or what's your use of force? Like, are you going to shake them so their head hits the ground? These are things you got to take into account.
One of the common training errors when you're doing the harness or shaking the blanket is when you're moving the person backwards. If you're limited in space, or for whatever reason they get momentum going and they start coming into you faster, there is a possibility that the person will be able to keep up with you. So what we want to do is employ the concept of turning the corner, if you will. Right? From my harness here, I'm cinched in, I'm nice and good. I pop him, I go to move him down, but for whatever reason, maybe he's a lot heavier than I expected. I lose my foot and he starts coming with me. What I can't do is start going straight back. We're not sure where this is going to end. And keep it in the concept of taking him down where he already occupies the space. I know what's here. As he comes in, as long as I turn the corner, it takes that momentum off me and achieves my goal of getting him to the ground. So as I pop, he comes here, he's weight on top of me, I turn.
If I get in a situation where I have a guy in my face telling me he's going to tear my head off, and he's barely able to stand up because he's so drunk, he's got like a 48-inch waist, way out of shape, and I just kind of equate that in my mind to, all right, I have this guy telling me he's going to do this to me, but then in the gym, last night I had some guy who's 205 pounds and 7% body fat who couldn't do it. So why am I going to be worried about this guy?
In here is this guy's got 3 options. That's it. Okay, so it's only 3 to work on. Everything stays in 3s. He could have wrestled high school at one point and just sees your legs and he's hit that flashback. He's going to try to tackle you. Okay, so the first one, I'm sure Fletch has worked with you. So just going to clean it up. Make sure the shoulders ain't close and this is hitting him away. If this guy's fighting you and you decided he's not going to respect your badge, when you do these, it's a fluid. You bam, all right? You just give him that little white light for a moment and talk to him. And we have this concept that we we always say dial it up or dial it down. This keeps it simple because when you're coaching, you can't be naming exactly everything. So dial up, dial it down means how much aggression you're going to use. And it's a thing about noise. If he's jacked up because his wife cheated on him, he's on drugs, or he's drunk, or who knows what's going on with him, he's got a lot of noise in his head, a lot of static. So what you want to do is if you go up to him and say, please stop, he can't hear you. He's got too much going on. So we kind of use that analogy of noise in the head that you need to stop that static for one moment so you can whisper something to him. You want to have that much control. If I get this guy and I toss him to the ground on his back and the wind leaves him for a split moment, all that noise went to 0. Then I can tell him to stop resisting. Of course, you can be vocalizing all along, but he wasn't listening until you shut that noise off. Okay, so when you go into this, you just give him that little white light, talk to him, but he's still not listening. He's so much noise going on, he's going to come in at you. So what you're going to do is when he goes to tackle you, this hand stays on. Go ahead. Right here. This is a lever. I'm just turning. I need to stuff the head to the ground and step behind him with my whole body. Here. And then pull. The harder he goes in, the harder he's going to hit the ground. Okay? So when he shoots, shoot. Now, from this position, that was going towards resolution. We're going to go towards the S position, which is here. And we're just going to freeze here, and we'll get more into the S and final parts of the resolution to cuffing last. Right now, we're working on our takedowns. The knee does not have to be on the head. Okay? This is the most important one, which is right on his breathing mechanism. Okay? This doesn't have to be here. Okay? It could be up towards the collarbone. It could be a little bit on the neck or on the head, but you can keep away from this one being an issue. In fact, we have a knee up, which is here. So, by the same token, if he's reaching for something in here and you find out it's a knife and you grab, that's going to come right down on his head. Okay? So, we'll dial it up later on. But right now, the first one you're going to deal with is he's got 3 options. He could try to tackle you, which I showed you. He could square up and try to hit you, just take away your pipe. This guy's so strong, okay? Or he can go back to kindergarten and try to get you in a headlock for newbies, this kind of stuff. That's all he's got. There's nothing else he can do. You can't punch. All right, so first one we're going to work is a tackle. He goes to tackle, stuff the head, walk behind him. All right, let's try that. Second thing this guy's going to do is he's going to square up and try to tackle you or punch you. Go ahead and punch right there, okay? So let's work at basically 2 things you can do. Go ahead and stand up. His shield, swing. You know those Jackie Chan movies where he accidentally hits people? Well, here's the elbow to the guy's face. When he swings, see it? So I'm in here, just shield. Go. That's my first shot, okay? But what we're going to work on is our resolution, which is the take. So when he lifts, all I'm going to do is push the face off to the side and step behind it. Okay, regular hip throw, right in here. Okay, all I'm going to do is very important, is my elbow's got to be up and my hand's got to be down. The way I tell the guys is punch the floor. Okay, because in basic judo or throwing is if I step here with Fletch and he's got the same position, we both have the throw. Right. Winner is not the guy necessarily the faster. Beginners will always see who reaps the leg first. It's not. Once I get my elbow up and punch the floor, I got the advantage. Try to throw me, he can't. So this is what's important, not anything else. The good thing about everything we do with the ISR is when I stabilize, I'm always 1 beat ahead of him. Try to punch me. Well, see, I can see it coming, and I have mine anyway. Okay, so same thing goes with this. If he lifts up, I can feel it here. Remember my probes? So if he tries to pull away, I got this. If he pushes into me, I got this. If he lifts his head up, I have this. So no matter how strong he is, I don't care if the officer's a 140-pound, 120-pound woman, she can feel it happening way before it happens. Come back down. She's going to hold him down as best she can. When he comes up, she steps here and then lifts the elbow up. Right back to our S position. Okay, with safety position. Don't get too much. Again, with everything we've done is, I don't make it so it has to be A, it has to be B. If he lifts and I elbow him because he punched me, that's my throw, the elbow here. If he's got a shirt, jacket, I just grab. What I don't want to do is be here, obviously, okay? But because I have the pike and everything's set, that's why the fundamentals have to be there. Because this is solid and he lifts, when I fold, my elbow's on his chest. That's all I need. When you get good at this, the second he lifts, I just scrape and lift. Let's try that. If I lift, he's just going to do this to get to the other side. Because if he pulls away, he's just buying, he's giving me time. So when I lift up, he just pushes and he's already there. Now the elbow comes up. This is the important part. Right there. That way I can't count. Boom. Okay. So if you want to do it as a preemptive situation, you just helmet it and went here. Or this is the drunk guy and you're talking to him. He starts getting wiggy. You do this and when you let go, this is what happens all the time. So this guy's talking blah 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 blah. You do this, that happens. And you just go. Okay. So you got reaction and action. Okay. Now the last thing he can do is headlock you. He goes to the gym a lot. He just wants to squeeze your head. I want your partner to try to squeeze your head as hard as he can, and I want you to keep the underhook and pike solid. Go. You'll feel that for days. I don't care how strong he is. You've got about 5 or 6 seconds. I don't care how strong. You'll see it. See, all that time. As he's doing that, the underhook is just going to lift up, open up a gate, like a punch, a shock put almost. I'm going to duck under the arm and take it back, okay, or board a quarter. So I'm here, goes for headlock. That's it. And I'm always going to block off one arm. Because when I dump him, I don't want him to have that arm out. People say, well, he's not going to have a break fall, but if you leave the arm out, he has access to your tools, plus that's usually where he breaks his wrist and arm anyway, okay, because he does that. So I do this, and then I'll show you some takedowns. Just get to that. Ducking under and under. Work that twice, and I'll show you some takedowns from there. Stabilizers that we go back to all the time is the underhook and pike. Reason being, it's pretty much the middle ground for escalating or de-escalating. Underhook, remember, is I'm going to keep him in close. Any difference is I want to keep his head back so he doesn't have, so I can keep him back away from my tools. I can monitor the environment, and this is going to keep him in close. Usually, you're going to get, there's not too many other options. You're going to get 1 or 3 different things that are going to happen. So as far as training this, it's very simple. You just train this for a couple, we'll do this on a seminar for about an hour and a half. It's 90 minutes of one guy grabs in, starts working. This guy's either going to try to tackle or hit and go from there. First thing that's going to happen is this guy maybe wrestled high school or whatever way back in the day, and he's going to figure, well, I see his legs, I'm going to go for a takedown. Because you have some distance and you have that quarter position, you're not in front of him with this right now. You're outside. This is keeping you away. These are basically your eyes right now, your underhook. If he tries to pull away, I don't need to see him. I could be looking over here, and I know when he's pulling away because I'm going to feel it tugging in here. Same thing. I could be looking over here, and as he drives into me, I'll feel it because of this arm. So the underhook and pike gives you that kind of sensitivity or awareness of where he's at with his body. So from the pike, if I see him trying to dip down and go for my legs, that's it. It's a reflex. You train this for a couple hours, and you have it. When he comes underneath and he goes down, all I'm going to do is move away and move behind him. Okay, so I'm in this motion. I can be looking away. When he dips, I can feel it, and I'm going to move behind him. As I move behind him, I'm going to push his head to the floor, and I'm going to use this underhook as a handle and a lever to drive him that way. So what you get slow is, as I'm moving behind him, I dip him head down, his head's going down to the ground, my legs are going to move around, and I'm going to pull on this lever. This lever is going to spin him back to you and take you to that S position, which is part of our resolution, okay? Right into that. So, one more time. Underhook and pike. I could be looking at him, I don't need to. He dips, I walk behind the pool, right into our S. I still have access to my environment. I can move him away to access my tools, or I can continue on to resolution. The next thing that occurs from there is, again, this guy's going back prior to his high school wrestling days, when he was the nursery and kindergarten bully. He used to get people in the headlock and the noogie thing, all right? So you're in here, this guy's basic reflex is to squeeze your head and punch you. So once again, because of the underhook and pike, as he's trying to squeeze my head in, I can feel it. It's going to take him a while, even if he's stronger than you, to bring you in because you have this distance. As he's driving you down and in, you have all the time in the world to duck under, keep this arm controlled, and then you can work your resolutions from there. All right, so here we go. We're here. I feel this head come up. There it is. Move around and dump him over and start working resolutions. Last one Okay? He's not going for a takedown. He's not trying to squeeze your head. This guy's just going to square up. He's going to somehow, so smart, he's going to lift up. Just come around, try to do damage that way. Again, you got the upper hand. You're driving down, you're hooking him. You can feel his head coming up. Go ahead. You can feel all that. You got a couple beats ahead of him, actually. When he starts coming up, right there, just drive across the face with your palm, okay? Second he lifts his head, I'm driving across, and I'm going completely to quarter, right here. That's textbook, throw, reaping the leg. I'm here, he lifts up as fast as it doesn't matter, I'm moving across, okay? Little details on that is, we'll go slow, is he lifts up, when I drive his head across, doesn't matter if my hand's here, here, even here, okay? All I want to do is get my elbow to the ceiling and drive my hand or fist to the ground. So when he stands up and I'm right in here, I'm just going to pop my elbow up and punch straight down. And that takes us to our S as well. All three do. So quick review. Goes in for the legs, spin behind. Here we are. Goes for that headlock, spin behind, dump, and squares up this way, come around. Right to here. Go for the headlock. When I'm here, first takedown we always show is, the shake. You call it shaking the blanket. Like if you're making your sheets, all you're gonna do is you grab the shoulders and you lift and then shake out this way. Okay, simple. But we're gonna go for the harness to give us a little bit more security. Let's say I have it here. It goes for the headlock. When I come in here, there's my harness, right? I'm just gonna bump and I'm gonna make like if I'm shaking out a sheet with his body. Okay? It can't happen that he's talking to my partner and I'm coming from behind. I won't even do a harness. I'll just grab, just run. Okay? Which is this. So I'm grabbing, running, I'm going like that. But since I want to secure him, I'm here. He goes for the headlock. I'm inside here. Okay, let's try that. First takedown from back. You get that much?
Another takedown we show from the underhook and pike is, again, the guy comes up. Most people, if you have this locked in, will go up, because that's the only option for their arm to go, is up and over. Okay, so what I'm going to do is when I'm in here, he starts to go up, I'm going to duck under, take the back, he starts to pull away from me, sit out a little bit. Rather than fight with that and try to pull him back in, muscle him back in, I'm just going to let go and grab the shoulder. Okay, what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to like shake a blanket out, just like, wow, just rip him to the ground. So I'm here, he's fighting with me, just going to let it go, get up here as soon as possible, and just snap him down. Okay, and then as soon as possible, I want to get a knee in and control him. Okay, so again, he's in here, underhook the pike, starts to come up, I get behind him, whip him, and then control him. Okay? From the arm drag, same thing. I'm moving in here, he's pushing on me, I get the arm drag, boom, I get behind him, boom, and control. Okay? Every time. We're going for the same position. And basically why we're showing you that is because I just want to show you different routes to get to the same end result, which is I want to end up behind this guy, shake the blanket out, rip him into the ground, knee up in a safe position. Talk to the guy, go ahead and move this to the back and turn him on his stomach.
Headlock, my energy is to come forward. I'm trying to do this. By doing this, I'm giving him my hips, so it's easy to pull me backwards, you see? So my own energy, the more resist a lot, resist pledge. The more I do this, the more I'm trying to go this way. When I finally get it, I'm here. All he's got to do is pull. Doesn't matter where. Okay? That's the good part. So let's work that two or three more times. One for one. This is a duck under. Simple, right? Then the first one we did was from a harness, which is a stabilizer. In other words, I can still be talking to this guy, keeping him away from his buddy or whatever. And our first takedown from here was shaking the blanket. That one. Okay? Second one puts him right on his belly. As I duck under, here, this hand that's on the neck, the pike, grabs the knee, right? This one grabs the ankle. My shoulder's already on his butt. All I'm doing is here. Okay? And then I move in. We'll get into leg anchoring later on. So I'm here. He tries to get me in a headlock. I'm pausing. The pike goes to the knee. There. Right? Simple as that. The guys with the real baggy pants, plus. Try to shake the blanket out, but this guy's really strong. He does this. No, you don't. So look what he's got now. Right into that knee and ankle pit. So it'll play out. I like the harness right away, and everybody likes shaking the blanket out right away. It's the easiest one. So the only thing that can go bad with that is when I'm in here. I messed up. I was too slow. And this guy's running forward. Well, if he's going that way, why not just, there it is. Okay, so it has that backup element. And we just call that knee and ankle trip. Okay, from the back and then shaking the blanket out. Those are your underhook and pike, the three things that can go and happen from there, and 3 resolutions. Body lock, because I could be in here and abort this and go right to a body lock. Okay, we got a couple basics. These work really, really well, so I want you to, hopefully you'll like these. I like these. Everybody picks what they want. In other words, if I'm here, some guys will stay right with the underhook and pike. Those guys, maybe they're only going to see you twice, just teach them these. Those 3, in other words, this drill in here, where you get them to do all the structure, the hand fighting, talking, all this, to this. You can just sit there for 90 minutes, and I don't know what Fletch is going to do. Do whatever. And I'll do that. And then he'll lift up, and I'll do the other. Just so it's reflexive to have those 3. And they got a good game already, okay? But from the body lock, when I'm in here, first thing I'm going to do is I got this body locked up on the side. I got quarter position, which is the side of the body. All I'm going to do is front hand grabs the knee. Back hand stays there. We call it a seat belt. This is keeping him into me. I'm in close with my hips, remember? I do this, I resist, I'm gonna just walk. Super easy, okay? You're not gonna believe it until the partner does it to you. So I'm in here, body lock, right? Here, pinch and walk. All right? For the sake of this drill right now, he's not gonna base out really far away with the legs. He's not gonna do that because I'll show you the second one. So, again, going back to 3s. How do I get a body lock? Let's say he's pushing on me. Okay? He's trying to get past me with his buddy. All the different ways we get to that body lock quarter. Bottom line is it's going to look like this. When I'm in here, I'm not even going to go for a body lock. I'm going to go right from a resolution. So I had no stability really. I went from an interceptor, the arm drag, right to my resolution. But the stabilizer isn't here because I have quarter position. I'm no longer in a position where he can hit me and stuff. So when he's here, I might lock him up, or I might just drop to here. Drop your knees in and walk. Stay on your feet or engage. We don't like being here. I'll get into that later. Okay, sagging the hips. He's know how to get quarter position. Get quarter lock in here. All right, now look. All he's going to do is nothing else and just drop your weight. Okay, let me carry you. Just everything. Put everything, drop. That's more like it. Just stay there. Just let me carry you. That's what you want to begin with. Just a concept of, wait for backup is, when I get to this position, I'm just going to do this. So he's already on balance. Just get everything you can on that leg. And that should be a reflex from the very beginning. When I take this quarter position, it's just boom, I'm already on that hip. Everything I got. Even from 140-pound officer, that's what I got. And I'm working for that knee. Now, the second thing that happens, they get their base out because you were too slow. Okay, it just happens. Boom, their legs out. See where it's at? This back knee bump. S. Okay? You don't have to go, again, everything we do, you don't have to go. If you don't like this one, don't use it. Go to quarter, use this one. See the back knee? Same principle. I'm sagging on this leg, I'm going to bump. My body lock is going to twist backwards. Okay, so you pick the one you want, or you combine them. What I do, over the years, you just get, good at interchanging them. I go for this, but his leg goes out. Lost him. Alright, let's try that. Knee bump instead of knee block. Third one from quarter is a leg trip from jiu-jitsu. Originally, it doesn't mean I don't give a shit where that already came from, okay? It's just body mechanics. I could sag in here, I could grab that knee block, blocking the knee. I can knee bump, correct? And then the last thing I can do is just hook. And I'm going to do is, I'm going to drag his foot away from me and then just turn. And then let go of the tripping. All I'm doing is tripping, guys. I'm in here. Well, what about the front foot or the back foot? I don't care. No, okay? I usually use the back one. He's way over there. I'm here. I'm trying to sag in. I use that back leg. And what you're doing is pulling it to the ceiling and then twisting. Okay, nice and easy. That's a third from me. Easy takedown to get. One of the first ones you'll learn
is just a bear hug and trip. Those are pretty simple. Again, if I'm in a position where my elbows are in, I'm keeping in mind all those the basic wrestling principles of elbows tucked, short arms. When he comes in, we're dealing with this situation here. Right here is my bear hug and trip. I'm either going to use this leg and hook, just like that. All I'm going to do is I'm going to hook, just like you learn in wrestling or any sport like that. It's just simply this. So I'm going to step in, hook his leg, just like this, and just sag. Okay, real simple. Another one is to get behind the guy. So I'm going to duck under, put my foot here, which is called a back heel trip. Just going to back heel trip. As we come down, I'm going to kick this leg up and over. Okay, if I need to control him. If I don't need to control him, I'm looking just for stabilization, for getting to that arm. I'm going to keep my arm here, keep this in tight, and just walk my way up to his head. Okay, keep my knee there, and I'm knee up and ready to go. Okay, again, from that same position, I'm in here. Let's go this way. I'm here, back heel trip. I'm keeping myself from touching the ground too much. Walk up and control. Okay?
Same thing Paul's mentioning. Anytime you do this, you want your the subject to bear all your weight. Rather than be here and be loose, or be here and be just trying to trip, or I'm trying to muscle this up and I'm trying to maneuver, what I want to do is just hang. And if you notice, by me lifting his foot up, just dropping my weight, he's all of a sudden, he's off balance. So sooner or later, you see that? So if I did drive forward, he's going to go. So the second you get this position from wherever, this he swung at me, and I lock in, when I drive and put this in, I just want to sag. That's going to take him down either way.
And that goes back to the principle, if all Lewis can bring to the fight is 120 pounds, then he needs to make that count. So when he comes in again, you see him, I weigh about 220. I'm not sure what Lewis weighs really.
245.
When he sags on me and hooks there, even though I'm a little bigger, it's making me carry it. And the thing is, if I'm not in shape, I'm not a good fighter, I'm not ready for this. When he starts making me carry that, I'm going to gas quick. I can't do this for long. I'm trying to fight him while, carrying an additional 120 pounds.
And get your underhooks and the stabilizer I showed you. This is a stabilizer that we go right into resolutions with, because we don't even want to hang out there. You can vocalize a lot in here, depending on this person, because once you shock them, you're in this position, and I just did it, sorry. You can nail the ear too if you really want to ring them. But once you're in here, you can talk to this guy. You can nail the ear. But once you're in this position, you're really vulnerable. Like I said, you come up with stuff, just all sorts of stuff. It's not necessarily your firearm, it's all the other junk on you, okay? Grab your belt, bring it in. So what you're going to work with the collar tie is, I'm going to grab the bald spot, Flex's bald spot right here. And I'm going to keep my elbows in, and basic mechanics is, don't do this. A lot of guys, when you teach them, will grab here. Lift your head up. He can lift his head up, so now he can rotate the whole body and throw punches to my head here, just like there, okay? I want to keep his head down, so his punches become, ghetto punches, this kind of stuff, okay? When I'm in here, I'm going to drive my elbows right into the collarbone, and I'm going to have my forearms across the jaw. And by keeping this here, try to lift your head up, you can't lift his head up. That's why you go on the bald spot. And your hands are here, right? They don't ever do anything else, just here. And then what I want to do is try to pull away. My forearms control the jaw so he can't back out, okay? This keeps his head from coming up. So we're going to just work the stabilizer one up right now. You got the other three, but I want to show you this one because it happens. And once you get this, try to back away. And then all you're going to do is nice and easy, turn the jaw. Okay, let's try that really quick. Collar tie. All this, if the only punch he's got is to your body, maybe. Okay, it's weak. If I'm spinning him all over the place, it's not weak. Plus, I'm not going to stay here. So since the only punch he's got to your body, look at the beauty of this. Punch the body. Look at that. See where the punches are coming from? Look how easy this is. All right. So here you are. Oh shit! You just here all of a sudden. Don't stay here. That's what's going to happen anyway. Okay. So once you're in here, also, if you really want to stun this guy a little bit, all right. But again, let's say he went to tackle, go ahead tackle, and I'm here right away. So let's try that. Collar, tie to underhook and pike to get us out of there. Immediately get out of there. There. And then he starts punching. I'll work to here, then I'll work back. This is for drill. This is just for drill's sake. Just come back, control the whole time. Just nice and easy. Never gonna look like that. That's just for you guys to drill it. Make sure the guys have that idea. Inside collar. You got a collar tie. Easy to get out of there, but you might find yourself there. Bald spot, jawline. That's your initial thing. Next thing that happens, this is very prevalent. If you guys get into a scuffle where there's a bunch of punches, and it might not be a situation where you had the ability to intercept and stabilize very easily, but there's 4 or 5 of you and there's 12 other people. It's one of these. Brace position. Okay, very common. We always use it. Start throwing punches at me, I'll throw at you. This is regular fighting. You know, just a bunch of punches coming in. This is what always happens. You see it in boxing all the time. In boxing, you go right immediately into this. In boxing, even if they get punched and they got hit hard and rocked, what happens? They just crash in and they get to this. We call it brace position. Boxer automatically does this. Never do that because you just gave the guy quarter position, body lock, underhook and pike, everything. You see? The reason I tell you guys never to grab over the top, if it happens, I'll show you a couple things you can do today. But this gives an underhook and an underhook and a pike. So not to, beauty of this, what we're going through here, no one knows outside. Trust me, outside, this is what you're gonna need. All right? Or balance them and then come up this way. Arm drag is what you're gonna need. But why give the guy something? You wrestled at one point, he grabs your body, plus he's got a much easier access to your tools, which we'll get into at the end of the day. So I always want the inside position. So this is a brace. I have one collar, okay? And I got the bicep or the tricep here. Start punching at me. When you get this on somebody, they're gonna keep trying to punch. What I don't want you to do, remember, is what a boxer does when he gets hit. When you get brace position, you can't get hit. Go ahead. He can punch me in the rib over here. Once, maybe, because I'm not going to stay here at all either. But this is brace. This is what's going to happen. Is he's going to try to hit you. Look what he's doing. Go ahead and start punching. What's he giving me? See it? Okay, so punch. This follows. That's it, look. Just stay with him. The other thing he's giving me. Start punching. Okay, so all I want you to do is very loosely start throwing punches, and one of you get big brace. Get big brace. That's brace. Okay, see he's inside? That's important. He doesn't want to be here because he just gave me everything. So just go play and get brace. There it is. You've got the neck, you got the arm. I try to hit him. Everything. So this is a brace. One on the neck, elbow in, grab tight. If you can get the ear, guys, when you train this a lot, not for your guys you're teaching that only going to see you once or twice, this is great. Does have control of his whole body. But let's just go here, okay? He tries to punch. See, the elbow's inside. If he hits me over here, it's all right. He just punched me. All right? Go up. In other words, by lifting my elbow up, see how he lifts? I don't want to flare too much because nothing's going to happen in the street, but he's got a duck under. Not going to happen. But why give it to him? Why train incorrectly? When I'm here, instead of opening up too wide, I just open up. Like elbow to the ceiling, like I'm doing a shield.
Again, we're going to discuss another position that's common to all wrestlers, and that is the inside tie-up. The one modification we make is rather than trying to control both arms with inside ties, I might have one on the neck. So inside tie on the neck and inside tie on the arm. Okay. Basically, it's easy to get to if the guy's swinging. He's giving you this position because now now I'm already in here. I'm working my position, and you can see anytime we go to the neck. Okay. You don't want to stay in front of the guy with an inside tie because you end up here equal. You end up in a pushing match, a sumo match. What I want to do is get to the side a little bit. Okay, I want to work off angles. It's all about angles and physics. So rather than go force on force with this guy, he's going to bowl me over. I'm going to work off to the side and get so that I'm pushing from the side against him so that I can work away from his attack. Again, this position works from a helmet. I'm just going to drop my arms in, get up here, I'm going to get my necktie in, Get a tie-in on the arm. And again, this isn't strength. You know, this is, I'm just keeping my elbow in close to my body. When he pushes against my arm, he pushes against my body. Okay, I'm not like, ugh. You know, you don't have to bench 500 to do this. You just use your body. You know, let my elbow come back into my body, stay off to an angle. He pushes against me, he's just pushing into my body, and he's letting me turn it. Okay, it's pretty simple. It doesn't take a lot to learn it, and it's easy to retain. Because we can simply train it this way. I can just say to Lou, man, listen, I want to work my neck tie and a bicep tie, and or an inside tie up, and he's just going to swing at me for a little bit, just mess around, and I'm in. You know, and then I'm moving off the line, and that's how we drill it. That's how we train it.
From the same bracing position that we're inside. So we're just bracing. The reason we just go over and over for bracing is usually it's impact related as far as I'm getting hit. So, you know, bad guys here swinging. It's usually, even if I'm swinging, it's so easy to get into. You usually lock up when you're here. The tendency from what we've experienced over and over again, once I do get this position, he still wants to knock my head off. That hand, even if I'm here, I'm just following it, okay? My hand's usually going to be braced up around this tricep so I can follow it away or towards me. I can control. When they're trying to knock off your head, how much easier you're going to get than go to swing, just zip underneath and go right into everything else we covered. So from that brace position and inside tie, that arm is usually going to try to knock you off. That's it. That's usually what you're going to get. How much more easier is it going to get to move around? So one thing you got to look for, and you'll see it right away when you train this, if this arm becomes too active, just go underneath it. And just going to do is follow it and control it. The other thing that occurs once I'm in this position is I have access to using my knees, and from the same position in here, I want to, as Paul stated, go off to the side and go to our quarter. I don't want to be in a position where I'm in front of him. By doing this, if he drives into me, it's the easiest thing in the world to control him over to one side. Pass by, throw by, take the back, control the legs.
Next thing we want to deal with is a snap down. Which again, if I get into too much of a pushing match with this guy, you know, it's counterproductive for me to try to push against, you know, some guy that's like 250 pounds, you know, he's just a bruiser, you know. So I want to take advantage of the fact that he's pushing into me. Again, this is just old school judo and wrestling tactics from the gym that we've adapted to the street, where he's pushing into me. All I want to do is make a little space by stepping off. So a lot of guys teach the snap down to step straight back. And that does work if I have the ability to brace this guy out for a second. If the guy's bigger than me, I might not have that luxury. So what I want to do is step off to the side just a little bit. Okay. So again, if you can see the angle of my feet, I'm just stepping here and see how he starts to fall down. Because rather than stepping straight back, he's able to stay into me, I'm stepping off to the side and snapping him down. Okay, so again, he's pushing into me. I have my brace position here, protecting myself, trying to keep my head clear, looking around, scanning, making sure everything's all right. And then I'm just going to step to the side, snap, and then this arm, what happens is this arm just goes over and catches the back again on the tricep delt tie-in. I hook in here, you know, thumbless grip. This hand is, you know, this hand is underneath, you know, basically running in line with his chin. All right. So I'm just in here. There's no pressure on the throat. I'm not choking this guy. I'm not applying pressure to the larynx or the windpipe. I'm right here on his chin, right here, and I just pull my elbows back. Okay, pull my elbows back into my body. And the way I maintain this position is once I get here, I put my delt of the hand that's on his chin and put that shoulder right there in the middle of the shoulder blades. Okay, on his upper back. And I'm just going to pull in and hold on him and just hold him here for a second and figure out what I want to do. Okay, it's not a completely static position, but you will find we do a drill again based on the forklift where all I do is I have Lewis stay here and I just put my arms underneath of him like this without gripping him at all, and I just tell him to move around. He moves around and I just see how much, if I keep my elbows closed in, I can keep this guy under me. He's putting a lot of pressure into me, you know, pushing in. If I give him an opening, he's going to go, so I drop my hands back down. You feel all these things. So the gist of it is if I keep those elbows in, I do that drill, 5 minutes every time I'm in the gym, I do that drill. It makes holding this position easy. because now I've actually got holds on this guy, as opposed to just leaving my arms under there loose, where he can rip and pull and bail on me. So when I go ahead, get my snap down, I pull him into front headlock, and I just hold him here. Keep my legs back. Danger zones might be, if he tries to hit me in the groin, that's not going to happen. Again, he's down here. If he goes for the hit, I'm just going to keep backing up, and we're eventually going to go to the ground, and I'll be on top. If he goes to bite, there's really no way, unless he's got another mouth or something. I don't know of any way for him to bite me here, because my hand's like this. I'm pulling him shut. His mouth is being pulled shut. His head's being pressed up and in. I have this posture. There's no way he's going to bite me. So it's really a safe position. Again, it's a sport position. It's really safe for the street. It's easy to get to. Step to the side, snap. As he comes down, this arm rolls under and in, and I'm just holding him here.
Most important thing from that when you start working it is that usually gets addressed in seminars is once I have that front headlock and I'm going from the brace position and I'm snapping down is biting, okay, peeling the fingers and such. What you got to understand, it's not a static position. You are stabilizing the subject. You'll be able to control. You'll be able to resolve this by putting him in a position where you can go ahead and start cuffing. When I'm in here and my hand's in there, I'm really putting a lot of pressure with my hips forward into his head. So I'm driving his head down. My hand's underneath his chin and it's closing his mouth. That pressure from my hip is keeping his mouth shut alongside with my wrist being pushed in this fashion. I have all sorts of ways to resolve this and continue. I can throw my legs back if I need to bring them straight down, if I need to work that way. If I do get an arm across in this fashion, one, he's completely off balance. Two, there's ways where if I had to, I could do LVNRs from here, which we'll show later. There's a lot of ways out. All I'm going to do is pinch my elbows in here so he doesn't have access in that way. That going out this way, in other words, he's not going to rip through. My elbows are pinched in, I can always go back. If we're snapping them down, this same thing in here, as far as the fingers go, I can close my fist and keep this going. So I can still be in here, I can still be over with the arms, I can still control this. My head's pushing down, my fingers are closed. If he tries to peel and his arms come back up, in other words, he's trying to peel, I can lock with both hands, I can lock with my arm over and my head being pushed in and my legs back. Him holding my wrist now works against him. One, he's not going to peel my fingers, they're locked up. Two, by him giving me those arms in that fashion, I know he's not going for anything else. And thirdly, he's all locked up around this one spot. So I can use this one spot to bring him down. Immediately the hands will go free. You get pulled to the ground. I tell him on your stomach, on your stomach. I keep the pressure on. As I move in, I use my knee to slide up into a knee up position and go for the cuff. I tell him get the other hand out, let me have the other hand. He lets me have the other hand, and we go for the rodeo cuff. 8 seconds. From the snap down position, and my arm is still underneath. I still have an underhook. Okay, I couldn't get my arm out, whatever. We get in here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn like I'm turning a steering wheel on a car. Okay, I'm going to kind of step through a little bit. That gives me a little momentum. I'm going to step in here. Okay, drop him just like that in front of me. Again, S position, knee in. Not a whole lot of pressure here. The main thing is I'm squeezing in and keeping pressure on this arm. I'm not really putting any pressure on the neck. He's not in any danger of injury from my knee dropping on his head or on his neck. What I'm doing is most of my pressure is right here on the hips. I'm pinning his hips down and using this leg to keep the shoulder right here so we can go ahead and get it behind him and cuff. Okay. Next position is from the necktie. I have both hands in. He starts to go under me, starts to move around, and I'm just going to spiral him into the ground here. Again, I'm going to sit down. As soon as possible, I want to get this guy turned over. Okay, I might use several different ways to do that. I might continue to turn him here. That doesn't really work if the guy's resisting a lot. Most of the time, I'm just going to step up here. I just put a little bit of weight right here on the side of the face and push him over and talk to him. Tell him what you want. Get on your stomach. Get on your stomach. A lot of times they'll just go because they realize that it's not their day. They just got dumped, and so they just want it to be over with. So again, we're here. I have my neckties in, keeping pressure on him, and I just spin him into the ground. Okay, keeping the pressure on the head, keeping him turned over, isolating this arm, setting in, double wrist lock or kimura, whatever you want to call it. Go to a cuff position. And again, during all this, we were always communicating with the guy. Obviously, you can't expect the guy to communicate with the guy while they're in the middle of a melee.
it's a little ridiculous to say, stop resisting, while the guy's swinging, okay? Once I get him on the ground, that's usually when I try to talk, okay? Once I get my snap downs here, I got him in here, I'm like, get on your stomach, put your hands behind your back. You know, if you put your hands behind your back, the pressure's off. Okay, get this hand behind your back. And then that's where we'll go from there. Okay? Okay, again, we have to take into consideration that what we do needs to be applicable to 110, 120 pound officer all the way up to a 270 pound officer, and all that implies. In other words, we have guys that right out of the academy, they're 22 years old, and they're ready to rock and roll, don't have an injury in their body. We might have a guy who's 50, 4 years from retirement, and he's got numerous injuries from the job, and we don't want to aggravate those. And you also don't want to send a guy out on pension early because he does a takedown and blows a knee or does something that makes it so he can't do his job. So what we want to do here is show all these takedowns are basically street safe takedowns. That means we don't touch the knee down. We're not out here doing a normal penetration step takedown. You know, I don't want my knee to touch down. I don't want to do anything where I'm going to hurt myself. Okay, so a lot of our takedowns are from the clinch and based on blocking out the knee, blocking out the ankle. Okay, so again, underhook and pike, and what I'm going to do is if he starts to swing under me and go in here, I'm going that way. So if I'm heading towards this side of his body, I'm going to go at an angle across this knee. Okay, and all I'm going to do, I'm just going to put my hand there and drive across it. Okay, I don't want to try to pick it up. I don't want to do a whole lot. When you train this, it might sound like a slap because it happens very quick. But all I'm doing is I'm right here and I'm just moving across him. I'm going at an angle right across that leg. So this arm is going to push this way, straight across, and basically my hands are going to cross each other on different planes. Okay, and my body's pushing straight through that plane. So as I come across here, I'm just going to go to that knee. I'm just going to go right here, and that gives me my takedown. That's an example of a street safe takedown. My knees never touch the ground. I'm able to maintain my balance. Again, things don't go perfect. I could fall down. He could fall down. He could hit my knee on the way down. We could bump heads. But these are things that you work out in a live atmosphere, in a live training environment. You realize these things happen and you train for them and train through them. Again, underhook and pike, and I'm just watching this guy. You know, you don't have to do it doesn't take a lot of rocket science to figure out that I'm pushing him so his weight's on that leg. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to step across, arms are going to cross each other, and walk across.
Again, if it doesn't go perfect, it's no biggie. The principles are there, and I'm driving across, I'm trying to cut across. And for whatever reason, the more I drive, he's got to bring that leg out to bear my weight because I'm coming across. Fine. Guy's got baggy jeans or he's got jeans, he's right there, well, use it. In other words, I'm driving across for whatever reason, I'm still loading all my weight on him. He's carrying, he has to stabilize all that weight with that foot. I want to destabilize him, well, there it is. Same principle now. Drag it across. Move to the other side. Safety position, your S position, you go from there.
Again, as Lewis showed, use the pants. That works perfect. If the pants aren't there, you can still get to the ankle. Say, again, dealing with who we deal with, which is between 16 and 25, and a young male. If I'm probably going to be, a lot of times we're bigger than the guys we deal with. You know, as far as the younger guys want to fight, they want to prove that they can hit the police and get away with it. So when I'm dealing with this guy, he might be closer to this. All right, so it's going to be easy for me to get to that ankle. You know, regular ankle block, ankle pick, knee block, all those things. As Lewis said, a lot of guys wear shorts that are baggy, easy to grab. Grab this, and there it is. Use all those things against them. Okay, just like they use, you know, guys with outside vest covers, they use that vest cover against them to hang on to them and things like that. The same way, I'm going to use his clothing against him. Another position, and just to show you how these positions transfer over, these same takedowns work from every position. If I work my way in here to a front headlock, I'm going front headlock, I'm trying to figure out a way to get this guy off balance, it's not working. You know, all I gotta do is drop here. This arm and shoulder are gonna do the same thing again. They're gonna drive across this arm, and I'm just gonna pancake it. Okay? So again, simple takedown works from every angle.
So the more you train this in a live fashion, again, the more you, like Paul's saying, well, things are going to go different. Just different. It's not necessarily wrong or anything. It's just going to go different. Here I am, same position. I'm trying to drive across. And he's, bearing all my weight on him. For whatever reason, this arm starts to come back. Starts to come over this way. Well, we go right back to everything we did. If you train it enough, it's all going to be something that's done very natural. So in other words, I'm trying to bear my weight on him this way. I get that foot out, but now he starts turning that way too. In other words, he faces that way. In other words, he's giving you this energy, almost trying to throw you over. Well, the more you train this, the more you go right back into everything else that we've done in the past. Let's say it's just a matter of him wanting to run away. So I'm driving him here. He wants to turn completely and run that way. Great, because you have the underhook. Because you have all those principles in the play. When he runs, you still have connection. Then you can dip. Then you can control. Same thing again. Here's your ankle pick. Here's the jeans. You can drive him over. Control the position that way. If he turns completely around, you lost him. You messed up. Well, here. Right there, you got shorts, fabric, ankle. You can use his ankle. You can use jeans. Just anything, and he's just going to dip straight down. Match. And this position is common, but we don't want to stay there. So my main emphasis with you guys is from here, just recognize it. I don't want to be in here. For both hitting, I want to lock in. Now the beauty of it is if he swings at me, I do a helmet, and he backs away, and I'm losing control, I'm still going to try to keep the helmet and dive going in, just to get the brace, just to get the underhook and pipe. So it'll happen that way. Don't think about it, but I mean, just, it's there, okay? What I'd like for you to do now is, let's start off very simple. We're going to start off with what we did. Go slow-mo, because we got a long day, all right? So I'm just going to throw a punch at Fletch. He's going to react with a dive or a helmet, okay? And when he does that, he's going to go to, that's interception, he's going to go to stabilizer. From the stabilizer, this slow, I don't want to work any faster, I'm going to give him an energy so he can resolve. Coming up, he's going to go here, he's going to resolve to this, before we get into actually controlling the guy on the ground for cuffing. Next thing I might do is I might stand here, he might grab my hand. I'm going to pull away. He might go to underhook and pike again, or he might go to the wrist weave. Set me down, we're going to freeze there, okay? So just play around back and forth with different energies. Remember that fundamentally we went here, we cross-grabbed for the 2-on-1. If we grabbed on the same side, then we had to cross-grab anyway. We also worked on the idea of this, where he's just talking to you, the old purpose. And if they're just, if this is an elderly woman, you don't have to do anything other than do this. This guy's a punk, and he's doing that, drag him. Just get outside. You can drag 2-on-1, wrist weave. So start playing. We also did the scenario, which is very common, drunk guy. Just talk to him. Be here. Or be here. Yeah, he is a jerk. Just kind of be talking to him in here. You're monitoring everything that's going on. And lastly, we also did, he's trying to get to his buddy. He doesn't even know you're there. If he's doing that, there's your underhook. If he's pushing on you to get past, there's the arm drag. This will all that all the way to the ground. Slow-mo though, okay? Let's try.
If you have a judo base already, you have a wrestling background already, then you're pretty adept at backstepping. That's one of the principles of wrestling that you learn right from the beginning, backstepping, those types of things. Don't be afraid to use those. We don't teach those to everybody because a lot of guys might have played football or, most police officers were athletic, at one point in their life, so they have some sort of background. But if they didn't have a wrestling background, trying to teach a guy in 8 hours how to backstep would take the entire 8 hours, at least to a high level of proficiency. So again, bearing that in mind, we need to also understand that not every time will the takedowns and the throws go perfectly. Everything's not going to be like a still picture. And that's something that we encounter with a lot of guys is they're like, well, that didn't work. Well, yeah, it did work. You got the guy down. You were able to get control of him. And you did it at your pace, and you dictated how the confrontation went. So guys need to understand that when I go in here, I go for my takedown, I go for the snap down, something happens, it goes wrong, I need to be able to throw this guy. Oh man, that's not right. I'm on the wrong side. Well, adjust yourself. Control that head, step around, and go to your S position. These things happen. It's a fluid environment, it's combat. You need to understand, not everything's going to go picture perfect, not everything's going to be just the way you want it to go, but you will be able to put that person in a place where you can decide what happens next. Rather than have this guy out here, have me go, oh man, it's not working. He gets away from me, lands a lucky shot, bang, and then it's me covering up and trying to get on the radio.
Same thing occurs if I have any kind of these positions and I'm trying to snap this guy and it's not working. Is it incorrect to grab the back of the shirt and pull it over at that point? No, I can grab the shirt here and pull it over this way. I can just run with this one arm and start running backwards and try to drive him into the ground. At that point, you got to remember, we basically tried to intercept. We already did that. We're trying to stabilize. We're trying to resolve the whole situation, put it on the ground so we can cuff him. Okay? And we want to do so with as much control as possible on our side. So rather than be here and be frustrated because I can't snap this guy, I can't twist him down, and resolve to start beating him and hitting him with knee shots and everything else that you could do, rather than go there, stay with the protocol. I mean, basically here, I'm trying to stabilize and control the situation. Can't throw him that way. Can't bring his chin down. Well, grab the shirt, grab the belt. Pull him down to the ground. Okay, you gotta realize, you gotta stick basically with the concept of it and don't get so much into the pure technique. Okay, you can't think, well, tactically this is supposed to happen. What's supposed to happen is you're supposed to go home that evening. What's supposed to happen is you're supposed to intercept this whole situation, control that situation by stabilizing it, taking it down, and resolving it.